Most people assume memory loss is something that comes with old age, something that happens when your hair turns gray or your grandkids start visiting on weekends. But the truth is far more surprising, and a little uncomfortable. Our memory actually starts to decline much earlier than we think. Research from top universities like Harvard and Columbia has shown that by our late 20s, the brain begins to lose a bit of its processing speed. It's subtle, you won't notice it right away, but it's there. Think about how often you walk into a room and forget why you came. Or you meet someone at a party and can't recall their name 10 seconds later. Maybe you reread the same paragraph twice before realizing you didn't absorb a single word. We laugh it off, but these small lapses are really your brain's way of whispering, "Hey, I need a workout too." You see, the brain isn't that different from your muscles. When you don't challenge it, it weakens. But when you push it, when you give it something new and uncomfortable to do, it grows stronger, faster, and more adaptable. The beautiful part? It doesn't matter how old you are. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, works for everyone. You can absolutely train your brain to get sharper, more focused, and more creative. So today, we're diving into 4 science-backed brain exercises that can do exactly that. None of them require a gym membership, expensive apps, or hours of study. You can do them in under 5 minutes a day while drinking coffee, standing in line, or scrolling through YouTube. But the results? They can change the way you think, learn, and remember. 1. The color word challenge, the battle between habit and focus. Let's start with one of the simplest yet most powerful cognitive workouts, the color word challenge, also known as the Stroop test in psychology. Here's how it works. You'll see a list of color words on screen: red, blue, green, yellow. Easy, right? But the trick is that the color of the word doesn't match the word itself. The word blue might appear in red ink, or yellow might show up in green. Your task is to say the color of the text, not the word you read. Sounds simple until you try it, because your brain automatically wants to read. That's a habit built over decades of reading text on signs, screens, and books. Suddenly, you're in a mental tug-of-war between what your eyes see and what your mind interprets. When you force yourself to say the color instead of the word, you're activating 2 key parts of your brain. First, the anterior cingulate cortex, which detects conflicts and errors, like when your mind says red but your mouth blurts blue. Second, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for self-control, focus, and decision-making. It's the same area that helps you resist checking your phone when you're supposed to be studying, or that stops you from snapping at someone when you're stressed. In other words, this little exercise is like mental resistance training for your attention span. After just a few rounds, you might notice how hard your brain works to override instinct. That strain? That's growth. You're literally rewiring neural pathways that make you more focused under pressure and less distracted by noise, both internal and external. Try it once a day. Use colorful text on your phone, or even colored sticky notes on your desk. You'll not only sharpen your focus, but also start catching yourself in moments when your brain wants to take the easy route. That awareness is the first step to stronger, more deliberate thinking. 2. Optical illusions. Teaching your brain to see differently. The second exercise might sound like fun and games, and honestly, it is. It's optical illusions. Our brains love shortcuts. They're energy-saving machines that interpret the world based on patterns. That's why sometimes you see a face in a cloud or think your phone buzzed when it didn't. Optical illusions force your brain to pause, question, and reevaluate what it's seeing. When you stare at a well-crafted illusion, your visual cortex fires up, trying to make sense of conflicting information. Maybe you see 2 faces that suddenly become a vase, or a picture of an animal that transforms into another, depending on your focus. What's happening here is more than visual trickery, it's a full-on mental flexibility workout. Each time your brain shifts perspective, from one image to another, it activates your prefrontal cortex, the same part used for problem-solving and creative thinking. You're literally practicing how to look at the same information in new ways. Think about that for a moment. In a world overloaded with information, social media, news, arguments, endless opinions, our ability to shift perspectives isn't just useful, it's essential. People who can reframe problems are often the ones who innovate, adapt, and stay mentally young. For example, have you ever argued with someone And both of you were convinced you were right? The illusion test teaches your brain to accept that two seemingly opposite things can both be true. It's just a matter of how you look at them. That same skill translates to empathy, creativity, and critical thinking. So next time you see an illusion online, don't just scroll past. Pause. Let your brain wrestle with it. Notice how one detail changes your entire interpretation. Because every time it does, you're training yourself to think more deeply and see more broadly. And that's the kind of intelligence that lasts a lifetime. 3. The positive word search, rewiring for happiness, and recall. The third brain exercise combines science and emotion in a beautiful way, a crossword puzzle made of positive words. When you look at a board filled with uplifting terms, words like joy, courage, gratitude, peace, and try to spot one that stands out first, something fascinating happens inside your brain. Your language centers and emotional regulation systems light up together. Every time you focus on a positive word, your brain releases a tiny surge of dopamine and serotonin, the same neurotransmitters linked to motivation, happiness, and learning. You're not just reading, you're conditioning your mind to associate focus with positivity. This small shift can have a huge impact. Think of it like tuning your mental radio. If you start your morning by scanning for positive patterns, even in a word puzzle, you prime your brain to notice more good things throughout the day. That's called selective attention bias. The more you train it, the more resilient and optimistic your perspective becomes. But beyond mood, this exercise boosts verbal memory and pattern recognition. Searching for words across grids strengthens the neural pathways responsible for language retrieval and visual scanning. Over time, that means recalling names faster, remembering quotes more easily, and speaking more fluently. It might sound small, but countless studies link daily word games, even 5 minutes a day, to slower cognitive decline and stronger memory retention in older adults. And here's the deeper truth: when your brain associates learning with positivity, it learns faster. That's why some of the world's most creative thinkers, from writers to entrepreneurs, begin their day with a short mental ritual, something that grounds them in curiosity and gratitude. Because positivity isn't just an emotion, it's a mental framework that makes your brain more efficient. 4. The memory food challenge, remembering what fuels you. Now let's talk about the final and maybe the most delicious brain exercise, the memory food test. Imagine 8 images flashing on your screen, each one a different food. Blueberries, avocados, walnuts, salmon, dark chocolate, eggs, broccoli, and green tea. Your job is simple: remember as many as you can. It's quick, but deceptively powerful. Because when you try to recall what you just saw, you're activating your working memory, the system that holds short-term information like a mental notepad. It's the same skill you use when trying to remember a phone number long enough to type it in, or when following multi-step directions without writing them down. What's interesting is that this type of memory, short-term, visual recall, declines earlier than most people realize. But just like a muscle, it improves with use. Every time you attempt to recall, you're strengthening the connections between neurons in your hippocampus, the area of your brain responsible for learning and long-term memory formation. And here's the cool twist: those 8 foods you're memorizing, they actually help your brain perform better in real life. Blueberries are rich in antioxidants that protect against cognitive decline. Avocados contain healthy fats that boost blood flow to the brain. Walnuts are packed with omega-3s that support memory and learning. Salmon helps build new brain cells and supports mood stability. Dark chocolate improves focus and mood through flavonoids and magnesium. Eggs contain choline, essential for neurotransmitters like acetylcholine, critical for learning. Broccoli adds vitamin K and sulforaphane for sharper cognition. Green tea provides L-theanine, which creates calm alertness without the caffeine crash. So this exercise isn't just about memory, it's about mindfulness. You're training your recall while learning what truly nourishes your brain. It's a 2-for-1 mental fitness meets nutritional awareness. Here's a fun twist you can try at home before grocery shopping: visualize your list instead of writing it. Picture each item in vivid detail: the color of the avocado skin, the smell of green tea, the texture of dark chocolate. Then test yourself at the store. Not only will you improve memory retention, but you'll engage your senses, which strengthens recall even more. Because memory isn't just mental, It's emotional and sensory. The more senses you involve, the deeper the memory sticks. Why these exercises work, and why most people don't practice them. If these exercises sound simple, that's because they are. But simplicity doesn't mean they're easy. Just like doing a few push-ups daily won't make you an athlete unless you commit, these brain workouts require consistency. The real challenge is not the difficulty, it's attention. In a world built to distract you, the ability to stay focused on one thing, even for a minute, is rare. When you practice the Stroop challenge, or stare at an illusion, or search for positive words, you're teaching your brain to return to the present moment. That's the foundation of mindfulness, not the spiritual kind with incense and chanting, but the practical kind that keeps you from feeling scattered. Because the more you train attention, the easier it becomes to remember, to learn, and to connect deeply with people around you. And that's what this is really about. Memory training isn't about recalling random facts or winning trivia night. It's about being fully present in your life, remembering the little moments that make you human. The smell of your grandmother's cookies. The lyrics of the song you danced to at your wedding. The name of the barista who smiles at you every morning. Those details are what weave the texture of our lives. When we forget them, we don't just lose information, we lose connection. So think of these 4 exercises as a small act of self-care for your brain. Not to become a genius, but to stay curious, alert, and emotionally alive. The science of neuroplasticity in everyday life. Every time you challenge your brain with something unfamiliar, you're literally reshaping it. Tiny electrical impulses form new synapses, new roads that connect one neuron to another. The more you use those roads, the smoother they become. The less you use them, the more they fade. That's why learning a new skill, language, or even dance routine feels hard at first. Your brain is paving a new path. But over time, those paths merge into highways of efficiency. The color word challenge improves attention highways. Optical illusions refine perspective highways. Positive word puzzles reinforce emotional resilience highways. And food memory tests build recall and sensory integration highways. You're not just exercising your mind, you're architecting it. And what's even more beautiful is that the human brain never stops building. Even at 70, you can form new connections. That's something science didn't believe decades ago. But it's true, your brain remains a lifelong construction site. Final reflection. The secret to a sharper memory isn't found in a supplement bottle or an app. It's in the little choices you make every day. Do you challenge your brain, or do you let it coast? Do you give it junk food, endless scrolling and passive entertainment, or do you feed it with curiosity, reflection, and learning? Memory isn't just about storing data, it's about living deeply. When you train your brain, you're training your awareness, your emotional balance, and your ability to experience life fully. So, the next time you catch yourself forgetting where you put your phone, don't panic. Smile. It's your brain saying, hey, I'm ready to grow again.